run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden,
But it's
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say.
Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. I am KB, and I don't know what the hell is going on next to me, but the old man.
Ho! What's going on, KB?
The best part is I had no clue that was going to happen. He just put the sheet up, so I had no clue that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's gifts and presents, and Santa Claus has been good to Mike Norvell, and I'm sure you're going to tell us about it, buddy, as the climb continues again.
I would say yes. We have a lot to talk about. The Santa Claus or the Battle's End collective
fans, everybody
has been very good to Mike Norvell, and his newest staff members, I think, have been very good to him already early in this cycle. So yeah, we have a lot to go into. As you all know, this has been National Signing Day, early signing day week. We wanted to wait till the end of it Friday today to go through some of the latest updates, and obviously we had some really good news for Florida State today. As of around 5 o'clock this afternoon, we had 2 more 4-star flips go Florida State's way. So we have a lot to go into. Love to get your thoughts, questions, feedback, whether you're watching it live or on a replay. Let us know what you think about this class. Do you think it's good, great? Who do you think of the players? Good or bad? Let us know what you think. But we're going to go into all of it. And I think we'd be remiss not to talk about kind of first what may have led to some of these things and to some of these commitments happening. Obviously, it was made official, and we kind of talked about it on our last show. What was it, Monday? The changes coming to Florida State. And those were made official with the signing of the defensive coordinator, and with also pot roast coming over from Nebraska for the defensive line coach. Because we were talking about, we were talking about these things, and obviously it sounded as though they were made official, but Florida State hadn't announced them yet. But now they're finally announced by the university. Terrence Knighton's on board as defensive line coach, taking over for Odell. And he's going along with, obviously, the defensive coordinator, Tony White, coming over from Nebraska as well. I see these as two massive wins for Mike Norvell and the staff. Obviously, I think most fans are totally on board with these things. Some of the fans weren't totally on board with Gus Malzahn totally with that. I think you and I already had that debate, and I think we think for what he's coming in to do as being an offensive coordinator, that's a good sign for Florida State, and taking that away, because Gus Malzahn, as we said, isn't going to come in and not call plays. So that's a good sign for Mike Norvell that he's giving that up, and for a guy that's known for building offense, that's great for Florida State. For this side of things, what we said all along is that Florida State needed to bring in guys that had done it before and done it at a high level, and Tony White's been able to do it at every single level. And the same for his assistant there on the defensive line, and Pot Roast or Mr. Roast, or I don't know what we're supposed to formally call him.
How about by his name? By his real name.
That's not what the kids. Terrence Knighton. So,
Knighton.
But I think these are 2 massive wins, and these are guys that recruit very well. They've been known to develop very well. And by and large, the players really love these guys. And if you look at the Nebraska fan sites, you look at their Twitters, these are coaches that these guys did not want to leave, right? These are seen as the shining stars on a team that did not do well. That's the hard thing to find, right? You go into, we know how fanatic the Nebraska fan base is. You brought it up last time. This is you talk about Florida State struggling a couple of years here and there. Nebraska is a blue blood program that has been in the drains for the last 20 plus years, right? Mm-hmm. They've struggled to get back to even to a major bowl game to even get close to the playoffs. But we know they're passionate. They show up for every game. That's a fan base that doesn't waver. And once again, they're trying to get back on track with the new coaching staff. But these guys, and they have a young quarterback. They struggled at times this year. They didn't have quite the season that they may have thought they had. But these are 2 coaches they saw as the shining star of the season, and they didn't even want to lose those. Some other teams, you may say, they said, well, let's get, these coaches didn't do anything, get rid of them. We only won 6 games, whatever it may be. But no, the fans from Nebraska were mad to lose these guys, and I think that speaks to what these coaches did for that team and rebuilding them to getting Nebraska back to a bowl game, right? And so I think this is a huge win for Florida State in what we're going to be able to do. And the great thing, what I love about these two coaches in particular is that Terrence Stein's a young guy, NFL experience. He has experience both as being a great player at the college level, being a pretty good player at the NFL level, but he knows how to navigate those systems. He knows how to get to the next level. You brought that up before as being a big deal nowadays with the NFL light system. And now he's had now a track record of experience of development at the college level. This isn't a guy that's trying to coach for the first time. He's been doing it. And now you're bringing him to Florida State that's looking to take their defense to the next level and look for who's going to take over the torch from Odell, right? And be the next guy that does it for Florida State. And I think it seemingly looks like a great guy to take that torch from Odell while he steps back into another role for Florida State in that. And the same thing for defensive coordinator. Norvell couldn't afford to go take another guy who's looking to make a name for himself. No, Tony White has a name.
Hello? Are we still on the air?
Yes.
Okay, you still there?
Yeah.
You seemed somebody froze here for a minute. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. But I think, like I said, Tony White, being able to get a name like Tony White with the experience he has and his proven track record, I don't know if I thought that was going to be possible for Florida State, right? And so to be able to get a guy like that, and a guy that's not trying to make a name or coming from a non-P4 school, I think it's a huge win. And you've already seen it on the recruiting trail. Anything you want to add to that before I go into?
Yeah, I think you gave a very good summary before we get into specifics of why everybody's so excited. And I think there is a very good feeling now. This is a good feeling before the holidays. And I think everybody was just glad the season was over. We know it was a disaster. We don't have to dive into any of that and facts and figures, but there had to be a very big house cleaning.
Yeah.
Norvell came out, he made the statements and said there will be an immediate fix. Now, what immediate fix means is open to question in my mind. Does that mean 6 wins in a bowl game? Does that mean going to the playoffs or 6 wins and building on that? So, but I like the hire of Tony White. This guy's coached at some very strong D1 levels. He's got credentials, and then Terrence Knighton, pot roast as he'll be known. As a defensive line coach, he's played in the NFL. And as you quoted me successfully as saying, is I like the NFL experience. We have to create FSU's program. We have a chance to do that when you're in the dumpster, is remodel the program, rebuild the house, and make it an NFL type program, okay? In many ways, on the field and off the field, and let the kids know, the players know, this is what you're doing. We're modeling this as NFL, and hopefully, if everything goes well, you'll end up in the NFL. No promises made, but we'll do our best. Yeah. Now, on the opposite side, as we just had a question come in, it's a great transition. This is great, and for all our defense, but what about the offense? That's where my question is. Now, Gus Malzahn is the OC, and I'm good with that. This guy now can dedicate everything to offensive ball and putting the ball across the goal line. And he has the resume to do that. Okay, he has the resume to do that. We don't need to get into all the stats, but he wouldn't be here if he didn't have that resume. Yeah, is he a little bit of an older guy? But he's like 58, 59 years old. He's 60 years old.
I mean they're talking about Belichick coming back to coach for UNC.
Yeah, I saw 70s, that.
And he's in the 70s.
So I saw that report. Well, they're looking for an instant impact, just like Gus Malzahn is for an instant impact here as the OC. My concern, like our viewer here, is we got to get an O-line guy. And I think you have a comment on that. We need to bring in a strong O-line coach, a strong wide receiver coach, and a strong quarterback coach. Okay. Yeah. I put out on X earlier this week that Tony Tokars will not be here. We thank Tony for all his work, but I would be very surprised from what I'm hearing from sources, and those sources are public sources type, is he is likely not going to be here. So, But the O-line coach and the wide receiver coach, are very important, and especially the O-line coach. Because where did we have our massive problems? In the O-line.
Yeah.
That we couldn't score any points. So I think, and I'll let you say it, I think maybe we're waiting for the right timing on that. And maybe there's a verbal agreement in hand someplace, but it cannot be confirmed. So I'll leave that with you. But things are looking up in Tallahassee. The rebuild, the climb 2.0 is under full rebuild focus at this point. And I think Norvell is handling that pretty well at this point.
Yeah, and I think that, obviously not having an O-line coach in place, obviously hurts you around signing day, and going 2-10 hurts you around, you lost 3 big recruits at receiver leading up to signing day, top receivers. You lost obviously Solomon Thomas was the big flip, but we had been saying it for weeks. He was not going to stick with Florida State. When you cut Alex Atkins, that was probably the final nail in that coffin. But I said that is not your biggest issue here, unless you think you can come in and start day one. Because you need to bring in at least 10 offensive linemen, I feel like, at this point. And you kind of saw it with what happened in the class. You see who they signed. You see a lot of you see skill position players, but you see a lot of defensive ends. You see a couple receivers here and there. And I think they did well in who they addressed without having an offensive line coordinator there, without having a receiver coach in there. Javion Boggs is a flip from UCF who was familiar with the guy that, Gus Malzahn recruited. He was a 4-star guy that they were to flip in. Could be an impact player, right? So you're able to bring in a guy, flip him your way because Gus Malzahn is a guy who thinks that guy can work in his system. Same thing with Deshaun Gelsey, who was a flip from Florida. Another guy that you've been, who they want him to play tight ends. Florida State doesn't need, he wants to play receiver. So that worked out in your favor. You were to recruit him to say, we're going to need guys to compete at the receiver position. We'll give you that tryout. You flip him, a 4-star player. So you were able to fill
Chase
this.
Austin was one of the top guys they wanted to bring in here, and he's from Nebraska, which is interesting.
And you thought that could be a flip. I thought that may be a flip because it was trending in that direction that you may lose him. But you were able to hold on to him. And I think having Gus Malzahn signed before signing day did help you in that regard, right? Because you can speak to what he does with offensive weapons, and you can speak to how you were able to utilize Landon Thomas and Amari Williams. And Mike Norvell came out this week and said they want to move Amari Williams back to defensive end. Play both ways and play both. But he also mentioned playing both ways. He thinks he can play both ways.
Boy, he had some good catches. It seemed like he had really good hands, got open, got separation. So I heard that, and I was like, I don't know about that.
But I'm fine with it either way, I think. But I think it was great that you held on to Chase Lofton because it seems like he's a very talented player. And
West went into the portal today.
Yeah, and that's probably a conversation. Mike Norvell said he was going to have these tough conversations with the guys and say, and these are quotes that I wish Mike Norvell had said in year one. Like, guys can't be here if they can't make an impact.
He is now saying it, though. If you listen to his conversations now.
And I'll pull that up.
No,
that quote
but he is now saying that. And that is what I say is the NFL model, KB. Yeah. That you have candid conversations with players. They respect you. You respect them. Don't tell somebody they have a future here when they really don't. That's just wrong.
I agree. But going back to who we signed in, and like I said, you lost some guys. You lost a lot of guys who flipped away from you to Florida, stuff like that leading up to LSU, Solomon Thomas. But I think what they did was right. You didn't. If you're trying to sign offensive linemen who are coming from high school, majority of them, 99% of them are not going to be able to start for you day one. Exactly. So was it smart to chase offensive linemen in high school right now, especially without an offensive line coach? You knew you probably weren't going to keep Alex Atkins leading into the last half of the season anyway. So I don't think it was smart to go out there and put out offers at the last second to try to get a couple of 3-star offensive linemen to pad your numbers. It's better to use those scholarships because now the scholarship limit's down to 105. Use those scholarships and use that NIL cash to go and fill it with guys who have potentially multiple years or high impact guys that have 1 year, but try to find multi-year guys in the portal. And I think that's what they did.
I agree. Don't just bring numbers in.
No.
numbers to get a class ranking. Who cares about that? It's not going to come down to that. It comes down to wins and losses.
Yeah.
So getting a lot of quantity is not the issue. It's the quality of the quantity that you bring in.
Exactly. And I think they were able to do that. I think they held on to Mario Nash, who they liked, 4-star guy, probably a guy that can start in 2 years maybe, but a guy that they like, and he stayed strong with them regardless of who the offensive line coach was, which is what you like. But that was the big offensive line piece. Sean Perot, I think, flipped over to from Florida State, developmental piece in my eyes. But you brought in 2 offensive linemen in high school. I'm totally fine with that because, like I said, allocation should be going towards the portal, guys who have experience, guys who have had time to develop their body, and guys who show upside now and can make an immediate impact next year, because that is what we need from the
and
offensive line.
Is what now, listening closely to what Norvell said after the it wasn't today, but it was the first one after the first signing day. He said, I want guys that can come in and make an impact, okay, this coming year. Now, those are the right words. And that's the right feelings when you go out to get players. You want immediate impact guys, and that's what you're selling. I believe you can come in and play right away if we need you, okay? Otherwise, I wouldn't be here in your house doing this. Yeah. Now, the other thing is we only got a couple offensive linemen. I think you got to wait. You got to wait for your offensive line coach. Yeah. I want him to make sure the guy can play in his eyes, because he is going to be held accountable for their actions. So why would you bring in 6 or 7 new offensive linemen when you haven't even had your offensive line coach look at them? That's disrespectful to me in a way. And how am I held accountable against guys I didn't bring in myself? I would have asked Gus Malzahn. I would say, Gus, we don't have the offensive line coach yet, but who do you think this Mario Nash can play? Gus, do you think he can play? Go look at his tape. Let me know what you think before we finalize the paperwork. Do you think Sean Porrett here, if I'm pronouncing it, can he play? Yeah. Wouldn't you do that if you were Mike Norvell?
Yeah, I think you have to.
No, you would say, we've been in bed with these guys for a long time. We've been in their houses for the last year and a half, 2 years. And so we do feel a little bit. But if you think the guy can't play, and you really mean that, sell your case and we'll make our decision.
Well, and I would have said, Al Zatkins' evaluations of the past 4 years haven't been great. So if this is a hand-pick Al Zatkins guy, and that's, I'm not trying to bash the kid, because Mario Nash, I hope turns out. But that's where I would say, if this was an Al Zatkins evaluation, we need secondary eyes on this to see, can this guy make an impact within the next 2 years?
You're exactly right.
Or is he a more developmental piece that we can't risk it? Like if we had a great offensive line and he didn't have to start right away or start within 2 years, that'd be a great pick for us. But we need guys who can start within 2 years, right? And that's not fair to the kid to bring him in and expect him to start next year if that's the expectation. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think because evaluation has been such an issue, and it was a big issue, you bring that staff together, right, on signing day or before then, obviously. But before then, you don't wait then. And whether it's the recruiters offline, off the field, and then Gus and you guys have, let's talk about each player. We don't need 25 guys in the class. We need 15 guys, 12 guys who can have immediate impact, and a few others. It's not about numbers. If they're playing games like that, you can't fix the problem.
I agree with you. The other thing that I would add to that is, I do think that the offense, they're trying to make the right pick with all these. Obviously, they're trying to make the right pick, but I think they're being more selective with their picks, and I think they made the right moves. And we talked about this a while ago, is that, because what was all the insider sites are saying they're going to go hire the UNLV offensive coordinator, and I feel like that would be a mistake, just because we can't take a risk on a guy that's trying to build his name and trying to build, coming from UNLV to the ACC and competing against the SEC, stuff like that. And I thought that may have been a rushed decision. Plus, you probably would have had to wait for him because they're still competing. They're playing for Boise State in the conference championship. You would have had to wait for that. But they were able to find Gus, and and he seems like a more known commodity for what you need right now. Same with defensive coordinators. You were lucky to find guys that were in positions where they could step away from the programs because Nebraska's not playing anything, but they are still talented guys in that place. So I think they were able to identify the right people in the right positions where you could get them right away. Offensive line is a little bit more complicated because I do believe, and I don't have any insider knowledge, but I do believe they're going after guys who are playing in the postseason or competing for the postseason, which is why it's taken longer.
Makes sense.
And so So you have to play this fine line, and because there are news coming out that they are hosting guys, they're going to be hosting a couple of these guys in the portal who are offensive linemen. And I think you have to start hosting guys and putting feelers out there, because if you can't get a coach to commit to you for 3 weeks from now, 2 or 3 weeks from now, you may lose out on some of the best offensive linemen. And I don't know if Florida State can make that mistake. I don't think they can afford to wait too long on some of the top offensive linemen in the country that go in the portal, because a lot of these guys too are coming from programs that are no longer playing for anything, right? Their seasons are over. They're jumping in the portal. And so I agree with you somewhat, but some of these guys too are coming from FCS programs. So one example of that is, it was told today that the guy Derek Simmons, coming from Western Carolina, who entered the portal, he's now rated as the number 3 offensive tackle in the country. He'll have 1 year left. But they have a lot, I think 5 or 10 programs have already reached out to him. They said Florida State has now reached out to him as well. He's from Jacksonville originally, that they've put a feeler out to him. I think Florida State has to do that. They have to put these feelers out. Like you said, even without an offensive line who has the first evaluation, because it could take 2 weeks to get that new coach in line to start doing this. You don't have time, unfortunately, to do that because you're in such a bad position and you lost so many offensive linemen. Gus Malzahn has to take this over along with his support staff right away. So you're in a tough position there, but you're going to have to, some of these picks are going to have to be made, and hopefully you can go off their tape, and hopefully, Gus has been around for a while. He can hopefully
he knows
make the case.
He knows talent.
Exactly.
He knows talent.
And once again, it's about courting. It's about courting these guys and just staying in the conversation. And then once you hire that coach, then he can say, okay, what's the value we want to put on this deal? So you court 30 guys, evaluate them, target them, whatever. And you say, well, if we're in a battle with Georgia Tech for this guy, let him go after his bid is at $200K or whatever, So that's where the offensive line coach can come and say, he's not worth this amount. Let it go there. So, but I'm glad that they're starting to reach out to these high profile guys and these where they see talent, because like I said, you're going to need a lot of bodies, but not just a lot of, not just unqualified bodies. I've heard some names go out there, this guy from Kentucky and this guy, and the guy has, he has experience, but I say, I want to know his blocking grades. How did he grade out? I don't want just a guy that has 3 years experience, because we just had the most experienced line in college football, and they were terrible. So I don't want just a guy that has a lot of mileage. I want to know his passing grades. I want to know what scheme he played in.
Who he played against.
Yeah, and that all these things need to be weighed. And you may say, well, a guy from Western Carolina, obviously he's not going to be able to do it at the ACC level, but you have to weigh all these things together. There has to be multiple ways. And I'm not going to say this guy's not good, because once again, I haven't watched his tape, but we can't just say some guy, because he started for 4 straight years, he was a captain on the team.
Doesn't mean anything. That's why I hope and I assume they're taking a better evaluation process at this than last year. You're exactly right. We've talked about this before. Even high school offensive linemen, I've talked about it a lot. Just because he's 6'5" and weighs 300 pounds, and he's played some average high school guys, doesn't mean he's going to be great at this next level. And Mike Norvell said that in the press conference that I watched, the one after first signing day, is he basically said, we're looking in our evaluations not for we project this guy might be pretty good. We need guys that are pretty good right now, okay? Whether they're at the high school level, the junior college level, or at the FCS level or whatever, that they're pretty damn good now and they can dominate their competition. Because it's very misleading when you're the biggest guy on the football field and you're knocking around some little guys in high school, average guys, which most of the guys they play against in a high school schedule are going to be average or below them, in size and development or whatever. And it's not always a good judgment of what they're going to be. And that's what Alex Atkins did. He brought in a bunch of big guys. Now, the one thing I didn't like what Mike Norvell said, is he goes, oh, we're bringing in on the wide receiver end. We've gone big, big wingspan, big size, 6'4", 6'5", 210 pounds. And we're gone big. And you know what I said? I put out a tweet. I said, well, that's good. I like that. You know what I like better? Can a guy run around and get separation? And can a guy catch the football? Okay. Yeah. That is what you better have with them as well. Because big seems cool in football, but big doesn't necessarily translate into production.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think big just necessarily.
And I'm not being negative, KD.
We had big guys last. Kentron Poitier was a big receiver.
That's right. And Williamson was fairly, but
and Hakeem's a pretty big. But you got to have guys that are able to make contested catches.
Exactly.
That can run routes.
Exactly.
So it's good to have big body, but can you develop? And that goes into coaching and development and stuff like that too. And that's why you're getting a new receivers coach as well. So you hope that those guys have the intangibles, they have the ability, and they can also be developed into their potential as well. So I agree with you there.
But if you're trying to get the immediate fix, here's the next issue. It looks good. We've got how many guys in the class of 20, 25 signees?
We have
15 guys?
20.
Okay, 20 guys. They bring with them 0 Division I production. Okay, let's remember that because you and I talked about that at the beginning of this season, that we were scared that we weren't bringing in guys with production, especially at the D1 level, including portal guys that couldn't match up with the production needs that we need. So these guys, let's remember, have no production value at this point.
Oh yeah.
So to get key guys out of that portal is going to be a big deal. And if you're ready, there's been people here asking about the quarterback situation. What do you, and we talked about this a little bit, where do you stand on that now?
So it was made known today that Florida State has started to reach out to Caden Slater from Liberty, who's now
that came out. I didn't see that. Where'd you see that?
I saw it on Twitter. Someone reported it that they made initial
credible.
Contact. Yes, credible source said, and I'm not acting like I'm an inside. So I saw on Twitter that they made contact with Caden Slater and they're evaluating him. So which I think is a positive sign. He is rated right now on 3, rates him as the #1 transfer portal quarterback available. I do think there'll be other ones.
Where is he
Liberty.
Play?
He's at Liberty right now.
Really?
Yeah. This is a guy that's super athletic. If you haven't seen him, he's smaller. He's 6'1". But if you've seen some of his, I think he's been a 3-year starter, 2-year starter with them. His stats,
But you know what I'm going to question?
Your competition. But you could have said the same thing about the kid at Miami. He came from Incarnate Ward. Then he went to Washington State, and now and then you do it. But he did it at all 3 levels. That's what I'm saying. Is that at some point I think a quarterback either has it or they don't. Can they evaluate? Can they read the field quickly? Can they make the decision? Do they take care of the ball? Some of these guys just have it or they don't. And you can know that.
But this guy you're talking about here is a dual threat quarterback, which apparently is what Gus Malzahn demands, and that's what he wants, right?
Yeah. So if you look at, if we look at his 3-year, process here, 1,800 yards last year, or this year passing 15-6. He had 32 touchdowns the year before. And in terms of rushing the ball, like you can see here, he is a true dual threat. He can, he's got 500 yards, 600 yards rushing on the season, 7 touchdowns. So this is a guy, and like you said, Gus Malzahn is going to want a guy that can do both and have the ability, especially because your offensive line is not going to be elite next year. We're hoping for an average.
But let's look at the scoreboard here for a minute.
Yeah.
This would give me some reservation, to be honest, and maybe that's unfair to the kid. Okay, he's looking to upgrade his situation, and you know what? Good for him. I'd tell him to do the same thing. Let's reach out. Let's go out there and see if we can get an upgrade here for yourself to get you, because we're trying to get you to the next level. This schedule here is not impressive. No. All right, and I mean, UMass, they beat them 35-34. it shows that he can generate some points, I guess, here. 41, 30,
He had
28, 35,
touchdowns.
37, 35, 38. So they had an offense that could generate some points. Their defense looks very average. However, that would be my concern.
Yeah. I mean, this is last year. They made the postseason last year. They played Oregon and got crushed. So
they got crushed.
You could look at that game and see, like, okay, playing against the most elite competition, what happens? How did he look? So that would be your closest comparison, because last year they were nationally ranked. They're in the top 15, I believe, last year, and they made.
Well, and I do look at those things a little bit. Some of those are what or blips off the chart, you could say. Indiana smacked around Nebraska's defense this past season. It was like 56-7 or something. So Tony White and Terrence Knighton got knocked around in the end by
Colorado and Ohio State.
No, I know, by Indiana team that nobody respects. So I kind of wonder what the hell happened there. They just have a bad day, I guess.
But because then they go ahead and smack around Ohio State and
I know,
and Colorado. So
I know.
It's
there are offsets a little bit. So this would be my hesitation here. Have you heard? Have they reached out to anybody else? They must have. They're not going to reach out just to one guy and ride that horse.
So the other quarterback that I know that they have expressed interest in is the kid from Boston College. I know Florida State fans aren't
the guy that quit on his team.
I'm not saying that.
He quit on his team. Bill O'Brien, the coach, said that, and it was weird. Why did he check out with 2 games left?
I think he got benched. He was benched.
Yeah, I would have no interest in him.
He's beat Florida State twice.
I don't care. I would have no interest. Everybody was beating Florida State then. Okay, last year.
He's beat them once. He almost beat them.
Okay, I'm just saying. I would have greater reservations with him than bringing in Mr. Salter here.
So those are the two that I know. Yeah, he got benched, and that's why he. I don't know the full.
He'll get picked up. He'll get picked up.
But he's not
coming to Florida State. I'd be shocked if he came to Florida State, unless Gus Malzahn says, we need this guy. This guy can help us. Now, I will say this. Castellanos, I would have less concerns with his playing ability on the field. I don't know about his attitude, how he checks out if something goes wrong, than I would with a Salter. But Salter may have a better overall attitude than Castellanos. But he has played against some better competition.
Yeah.
And we've seen him play. He's beat Florida State twice, as you say. But why does a guy quit on his team? Or he got benched. If you get benched, you try to get better. You don't check out. I don't think Mike Norvell will touch him at all. That's not the standard we expect. Because if you do that, what message are you sending to your current team? No, that's unbelievable if he were to come in here.
I agree. I think he does have some skills, but like you said, I think it would be sending the wrong culture message. And I do think he has some issues as a quarterback. I think he has some inconsistencies. I don't think he is a elite quarterback. He does have some athletic tools that are
can he win you 6 games? Absolutely.
But he's not going to be a guy that's gonna he's got some issues, but I think he is a very skilled player. But I don't know, like you said, if he hadn't just walked away, I think
I think it's a different situation. But you don't just leave because they say we're going to start someone else looking towards the future, or we don't like how you're playing. Something went wrong there. It didn't end well, and it's going. Coaches are gonna have to think about that.
2 other quarterbacks that Florida State fans may be interested in are right next to each other in the rankings. Tate Rodemaker and Chubba Purdy.
Not interested. And Chubba Purdy, are they in the portal again?
Yeah, he's out.
What did they do this past season? Either one of them, just quickly. Do you know? I don't want to make this their show.
No, Chubba Purdy will be on his 3rd school now, third or
fourth. Oh my Lord! No,
he'll be transferring for the 3rd time.
Of course, we're laughing at that. You might as well laugh at my face up here, my Santa face. That is Santa Claus, by the way. I'm getting ready to take this thing off because it's hot. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't even know what
these 2 guys not even on the list.
He had
Forget
5
that.
starts, 6 touchdowns.
There
4
are no good
interceptions.
quarterbacks in here yet. Maybe we're waiting for the 12 that are still going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's no good quarterbacks in there. There's just
Who's
gonna be
this guy
guys.
with the long Charles Manson hair there? Tyler or somebody? Who's that guy? That guy. Who's this guy? Oh, he's from Tampa, Chamberlain.
He's from Gardner Webb.
He looks like Charles Manson or something. He's from Gardner Webb.
Oh wait, it says East Tennessee. Oh, I thought that was the Gardner Webb. Oh yeah, Gardner Webb.
He's
Yeah.
from Chamberlain. That's close to where my Tampa studio is down there.
And he's been playing college football for 6 years.
Oh, he has been? Yeah, that's okay. I don't see any names in here. I am really.
So I think it's the
blown
names
away
right
by
now
it.
are going to be from schools that
Oh,
are
man.
smaller school. I think it's going to be you're going to have one or two guys that are going to jump in from a big school, but it's not going to be, there's not going to be 5 major P4 quarterbacks that jump in, right? That's not going to be the case. So you have to determine who is it that you really go after, in the offseason. Because these guys, the biggest guy right now is Miller Moss. That's the hot commodity of all the quarterbacks right now. And Florida
Where's
State
he
by all
playing
means,
at?
USC. He was at USC.
Oh, okay.
So that is the I would
Did
say.
he have a good year? He had a good year?
Depends how.
Okay, you know what? If I was
He had-
Miller Moss, I'm like, do I want to go to a school that has no offensive line coach yet? I don't know if that's good for my career, right?
Yeah.
You gotta put yourself in the shoes of the player and their support system.
I think he's the most talented in the portal right now. He's got the most. He's the most, in my opinion, the truest passer. He had 2,500 yards last year, 18 touchdowns.
Wow. Okay. And he played at a high level. I mean, he played a high level competition. Hey, you've got 2 guys in your corner, KB. Corey Hall says Salters is the guy. And then KH says Salters is the guy. So, apparently people are liking Mr. Salters here, who I have not heard of until you brought it up. And I need to get into my research more.
You do. And
Look at this. Corey Hall says, we get Salters, we back instantly. Really?
I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised.
Okay, then Jeff Hill here says, well, Jared Verse. Okay, Jared Verse is more of an anomaly than bringing in small school guys who are going to make it all the time, I think. I'm not saying small school guys can't be contributors, because there's some really hungry guys out there, and let's not compare everybody to Jared Verse and Brad, Fisk. I mean, Braden.
So
Fisk.
I do want to be clear. Like, Caden Salters was a highly regarded quarterback out of high school. I think he originally started at Tennessee.
Why the hell did he go to Liberty then?
Playing time.
Playing time. He went there for playing time.
So it wasn't like this guy was coming at, he started at Liberty and he's done it. He was highly recruited to go by Chris Winkie when he was there at Tennessee. And so he saw this guy and was like, we got to get him in. And, you get tired of waiting, and then he transfers out. And I think he goes to Liberty because they had a great season. And they've been building that program up, and now he's looking to go back up and get that starting role at the top level. So this is a guy that's been on the radar of college recruiters for a while. So it isn't like he just came out of nowhere. So I think that's something we have to keep in mind.
I think Corey Hall may be an agent for Mr. Slater. Okay, he's saying that competition I'm talking about has no place in any of this. He can distribute the ball kind of like a point guard and get the team in the right protection. What does that mean? Get the team in the right protection? I don't know about that. I thought that was up there at the center's job. I thought that was the center's job.
No, the line's got to be. Oh, the quarterback should be also seeing the coverage.
Okay, so we got Mr. Hall here, who's really raising the banner for Slater. Okay, Slater's the guy. I wonder what Gus Malzahn thinks of Mr. Slater. He probably sees him as potential.
Why don't
but are you going to hook the immediate fix to Mr. Slater? And an offensive line, you have no idea what you have.
Well, this guy, I mean, if we're talking about him seriously, I would say, this is a guy that has 3 years of meaningful experience under his belt. The 2 last seasons, he's got a lot of meaningful experience. So that's a check mark. He is mobile. That's a check mark. So, and he has the ability to improvise. That's another check mark behind a bad offensive line. I think those are all positives. I think this guy should be able to come in and be able to do what you need to do.
Now,
and
we
this
can't,
is not,
we can't verify what this is. Salter got in trouble at Tennessee. That's why he's back here to Tennessee. We have no. I have no idea who Mr. Salter is really. That's my fault. That's my accountability. I didn't see that report that you were talking
so
about.
he was suspended from the team.
For what? What, DUI like half of Georgia's team, or?
So he got suspended from the team.
Getting crab legs at the Publix market, or free shoes, or what?
I don't know. I don't know. I just
okay. Well, don't speculate. We're not going to speculate.
He was dismissed while he was at Tennessee, and this was 3 years ago.
Okay,
this is 3.5 years.
And they didn't make it public or whatever, and that's okay. Well, he's done a good job at Liberty, right? How many years has he been at Liberty?
He's been there 3 years now, I think.
Okay,
yeah, 3 years. So I think it says both players faced a misdemeanor charge, including simple possession. So marijuana.
Oh, marijuana. That's okay. That's nothing.
So there could be more driving without a license. Yeah, I mean, marijuana driving.
I did that the other day to the gym. I get halfway there, I forget my license, and I'm not going back. I just play. I'm old. I'm old. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I thought if it is valid in the system, look it up.
Okay. Again, if this is it, and he was 18 years old,
okay,
and he was going to Tennessee,
so he's on the radar.
I think, like you said, if they've already extended something, or if they've started looking at him, evaluating him, I think it's very real. And I think that means Gus likes what he sees, and I think go watch some tape and see what you think.
And he can win you. You think he could win 6 games on the schedule we have coming up? 6 or 7 games.
Absolutely.
You're going to get 2 wins. You got 2 automatic wins coming in. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
You get 2 easy wins. So he needs to win 4 or 5 games. That's it.
I think with that schedule that you have, there's no reason why this guy couldn't win you that. Like I said, the schedule next year isn't tough. You start pretty tough with Alabama, but I mean, they don't look. I'm not dismissing Alabama, but they don't look like this juggernaut of a team right now. But I think with the schedule you have, just the ACC schedule you have,
you just have to be competitive with Alabama. Keep it close. You might win the game.
Yeah,
all right.
I think this is a guy that could do it. So I think you would be, I think at some point, lucky to land a guy like this because, like you said, you're not in a great position to market yourself.
Right.
As having the tools to put him in the because this is his last year, right? He wants to show to the NFL, I can do it at the highest level. I know I messed up my freshman year at Tennessee. Yeah. I'm now back in the P4 level. I want to showcase my skills with the best. I want to start, if I'm playing Alabama, I want to be able to throw for 200 yards or run for 100,
He's hungry. He's hungry.
And he is a little bit of a prototypical quarterback in the NFL, mobile guy that he wants to be able to show both, right? This is his final year to show that. And so how does Florida State market themselves to say, we can give you that? We can give you that, right? Because this is his last chance to show it. He has got 1 more year. So.
Okay, he's got 1 year. Okay.
Yeah.
And
as far as I know.
If that is the plan, and as I said before, if Luke Kromenhoek stays with the team, then you give Luke another year to kind of develop through the system, and then he should be very competitive for the starting spot in 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you're able to keep Luke, which I believe you will, and develop him for 1 more year, then you have your bridge. You have your bridge to Luke, and I think that's perfect.
Let me say this to Mike, and I'm going to say it to you as well, KB. Next season will be awesome. Now, here we go. All right. Now, I want to pump the brakes a little bit here. Okay. Let's pump the brakes, Mike. We're all excited. And we are all fans of Florida State. We want them to do well, but let's pump the brakes a little bit. Okay. Let's be a little bit more cautious, blinking yellow lights going in. And I get, because I'm starting to see a lot of the FSU media beat writers and chatter, embracing everybody, and the hugs and kisses are coming out, and they're coming out because there's a lot of premium sites out there, paid subscription sites out there. You can join this hot bulletin board. But none of these guys that I see break any breaking news. They follow up on news coming out of ESPN or other places. But what I'm saying to you is these guys have a motive to pump all this up because it starts people buying onto their site. You go ahead and buy if you want. I'm saying this to anybody. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. I think immediate fix for a lot of fans, I think could be a little too high. But if we can win 6 or 7 games, I think that's probably would be a good season on the rebuild.
Yeah, I think you got to look at the target's got to be 7 or 8, but that would be, and I think my optimism will go up based on what they do in the portal. I think what Florida State, Mike Norvell, and the staff has done, based off winning. If you told me that they were going to be the number 2 class in the ACC off a 2-win season, I would say you're insane. I mean.
Right.
That's
right.
optimism.
Congratulations to Mike and staff.
I mean, to pull that out, to be over Clemson, to be over
message.
SMU, potentially the champion of the ACC, over both the teams in the ACC title game, for you to pull off a number 2 ranking, this is on 3, site it's number 3, whatever, but to pull that off coming off a 2-win season, that. I'll give them their kudos for that because I did not see that coming. You were in the high 40s a week ago.
Absolutely.
In terms of recruiting class.
And what was their final spot? 20s, top 20?
They're 20, I believe.
Yeah.
Some sites have it 19 and some sites
that's
20.
Okay.
So what you did is you staved off, I think you did a great job of bringing in guys that can, like he said, make an impact. And you could have really set this program back if you didn't pull that off. So I think they did a great job there, and you should be proud of that. But where the optimism comes from next, because I don't think, like I said, most of these guys are going to have a significant impact on next year. These are building the foundation, because what we didn't do 2-3 years ago is build a proper foundation for this team, which is why we fell off a cliff this past season.
Okay, look at the list of the guys that are recruited from high school, and which guy or 2 guys do you think would have a big enough impact, okay, to really make a difference?
I think Usman is one they flipped, and Georgia wanted him. And this
have
is
you
a
heard
guy,
any more about CJ Campbell at all? They offered him, didn't they?
They offered him. I don't think he's needed now. This was a surprise pickup in winning this battle.
You think he's a starter, Usman?
Yes.
Really?
Number 4. He's higher ranking than Cam Davis was.
Really?
Yes. Number 4 running back in the country.
Okay.
Played at I believe the highest level in Georgia for football.
Okay. It's about who you're playing against. Who are you playing against?
Exactly. So he was playing against some of the best competition. If you look at his highlight reels, the way he plays football, I think he is what I wish Cam Davis was more like.
And you know what?
Acceleration, ability, ability to cut. I think he'll be a really good complement to Cam Davis or whoever's the number 2.
I like Sam Singleton too. I think it's going to be a strong room.
That's what I'm saying.
Danzy, you got Danzy, he's a slasher speed guy.
I think you're going to have a really good rotation, but I think this is a kid that can potentially play right away and add to the room. He's not going to have to find his way. I think he adds immediate value to the room. I think
Usman made the flip. You know why? Because he smells starting time there. Yes. He smells, I can get on the field. I can compete with the guys in this room.
Yes.
And if we get an offensive line up there, we can have we can bang it around. Okay. Yeah. I think the tight end, Chase Lofton, I think they like him a lot and going to try to work him into that rotation pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because of his size and his performance in high school.
Yeah. I think Chase, once again, and he's going to be asked to play early and often because you lost Jackson West, you lost Morlock. They're looking at playing Amari both sides of the ball, focusing him on defensive end because of how athletic Amari is.
Yep.
And I think you hope he turns out because you really liked him. You kept him from flipping. And you really like him. So I agree that you expect a lot, and he could have an early impact.
The other guy I hear a lot of people want and could see immediate impact, and Mike Norvell said this too, is Kevin Wynn.
Yes.
Okay, they really wanted to keep him in. He's a kid over 300 pounds already. I think they
Georgia
said
Georgia
325 plus.
Yep.
And he looks like a guy given, again, look at the defensive line room there. Yeah. There's a lot of guys leaving, or potentially leaving.
Yeah.
Let's say that. Farmer's already declared he's gone. So Kevin Wynn could sense I can get on the field quickly here if I can demonstrate, my potential there. So,
And this is what I care about too: is who did you win him from, and who did you win him over? And when I see schools like Georgia,
right,
South Carolina, Tech, and
right,
this is who, like, when you're talking about the evaluation, who's looking at him, and this is what matters to me. And this is like, okay, this is a good indicator that this guy could come in. This is why he's highly rated. If you develop him the right way, this guy could be a potential year one impact player. And this is why I think they made the right choices. They held on to the right guys who could have an impact on, because defensive line guys and defensive ends guys rotationally can have a good impact. And then the new defense we're going to be running, right, with 3 down linemen, is a guy that could come in and make an impact.
Yeah, you don't want to bring in guys just to fill out numbers and say I had a huge class of 30 guys. It makes no sense, because you have the portal as a very fertile recruiting ground. Yep. Even if it's some guys that have been playing at FCS level, okay, is they've been in a system, they've had experiences, and those guys can come in, and if you bring them in, likely you want them to make an immediate contribution, or why the hell would you bring them in?
And that's where they flipped Jesse Harrell from LSU today, who's a 4-star guy, defensive end. And you can see, same with Tylon Lee, another guy from Florida. So they were able to keep some of these guys that were looking other places, from LSU to Georgia, other places. They're able to get these key guys, especially, you can see, we said both trenches need to be fixed a little bit, right? They need to get back to their levels. And I think they really did a great job on the defensive end to get young guys who could either in year 2 really make a big impact, or even on year 1 start to push or at least level up the floor of what our defensive trenches look like, especially with a new defensive coordinator. So I think that guy, Tony White's got to be happy, and Pot Rose, Terrence Lyon's got to be happy with some of these pieces they were able to bring in. And I bet they had an impact. They could say, Jesse, look at who we're bringing in for you to coach you now. And I think there may have been the conversation with that, because, the rumors are already out that Terrence Lyon was coming. I'm sure he was on the phone probably with some of these kids trying to flip them. There's no doubt in my mind that these guys flipping Jesse Harold and Tywon Lee, and those guys were on the phone getting them on board to say, you want me to come in and coach you and get you to the next level? Let's go. And so I think you got to be happy with the guys Florida State brought in, especially on the defensive trench side. What will bring me more optimism about how we'll be in 2025 is the portal and who they get from the offensive line. Because, that's really what it's about, right? Is that offensive line doesn't get fixed, and if we can't score more than 14 points a game, it doesn't really matter.
I think I'll be honest with you. I think Norvell and company and Gus Malzahn, I think they know who the offensive line coach is right now.
Yeah,
they
100%,
know.
100%.
Listen, because you can go out and contact the guy, contact his agent. He's gonna, he's in a playoff run someplace. He goes, I don't want to lose my focus here, but I will. The agent will tell him what the offer is, and they can go back and forth, like buying a damn house. You're still working, but you're buying a house, and and the guy's giving indications. I'm in. And I think they already have the name. The question is, how long is that going to take? And they may even be telling some recruits, we've got a name, but they got to be careful with that. The other thing is the O-line coach is the most important guy we need to bring on right now. And that's followed by wide receivers and a quarterback coach, as far as I'm concerned. I wish they'd take a look at Chris Weinke at Georgia Tech right now. Chris Weinke now has cut his teeth in a lot of places. He did play in the NFL. A lot of people say, he didn't have any success. Well, it's not just on the quarterback. But Chris Weinke, a legend at Florida State, I'm not looking at it from a legacy. I don't like legacy hires. I want people who have performance, and he's done a great job there the last couple of years at Georgia Tech. But we need a new quarterbacks coach who brings NFL experience, brings high-level D1 experience, and Tony Tokarz is not that guy, all right? So if you're going to clean house, you need to clean house.
Yeah, and I think the only issue with, I wish you could get the O-line coach from Georgia Tech, to be honest with you. But I think if there was either of those two guys, they would have been gone. You would have already had them, because Georgia Tech's not playing for anything. they're going
No,
to they're going to a bowl game.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They'd be here. They'd be here. You want to get to your next assignment. You're on the next plane.
I also think Chris Winke's probably looking for an offensive coordinator position, which Florida State can't offer him, right?
You're right. He's not looking for a lateral. He's looking for an OC position somewhere, and I hope he gets it.
Exactly. And they may get raises too, because Georgia Tech had a pretty good seat, and Brent Key is building a very good program at Georgia. Like, he's turned that program around. They just they just signed a 5-star offense or high 4-star 5-star lineman.
Florida State. That guy was going to come to Florida
State. And Florida State, Josh Petty, they tried to flip him back, but he's a top 50 player. Yeah, that's, obviously if you could have gotten him, Solomon Thomas, we're talking now you're talking, but they're building something there, so I give them credit. But they may get a raise. They're trying to build something, so I give you credit. But I agree with you. I think the offensive line, they know, and they're probably sharing that name with the right recruit, the right targets in the portal.
So. Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they get there.
And I hope it is a guy with, again, high-level D1 competition and both. I'd like to have him played in the NFL, drafted in the NFL. He played D1. He got drafted in the NFL, and he played a few years there. That would be ideal.
What I care about more than that is a history of development. I want to see him have sent guys to the NFL.
Yeah, okay.
Who's he sent to the NFL? That's what I care about. I don't care if the guy played 1 year or 12 years for himself as a coach in the NFL. I want to see.
And recruiting. Is he a recruiter?
Yeah. Is he a recruiter, and is he sending guys to the next level? Because Alex Atkins did not do that. He could, he could kind of recruit.
His resume is not at that level.
He could recruit, but he couldn't develop.
No. When we say you can recruit people, doesn't mean they're going to be any good.
Because you have to develop talent. You have to evaluate and develop.
And he didn't have the resume. He never played at that level.
No. So, And so you have to have a guy. Some guys cannot recruit, but they can develop very, very well. They can get the most out of whatever they have, and they can scheme.
Some guys can be great coaches and never played it down.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not ideal.
Yeah.
All right.
So you got to get a guy that can get the most out of what he has, and ideally, he can also recruit the talent as well. That's sometimes hard to find both of those traits, but that's ideally what Florida State's going to get. Exactly. One thing to keep in mind too is, it's the blue chip rate. I think Florida State did a good job this year of keeping their blue chip rate up. Obviously, it's not as high as last year, and that's that 4 or 5-star talent. You just don't want to, like you said, sign guys, right? You don't want to, because you'd rather those scholarships go to the portal, honestly, because you get an impact there. So their blue chip rate last year was 60%. This year it's 45%. I still think they did a good job in identifying the right people and getting the right people in. But at the same time, where I talk about blue chip rate, to be competitive in the ACC, it doesn't need to be that high. You look at SMU. Look at their blue chip rate. It's 16%. You look at the year before that, it's not even.
And SMU could win the ACC.
That's not
they have a damn good chance.
If you go to the, and I don't know why they're not even on here, but if you go to their blue chip rate is consistently not even at 15%. Once again, it's about development and getting the most out of
hunger hunger.
Yeah, and so
hunger
I'm not saying
by the player, motivation.
I'm not saying I want Florida State not to have 60%, 50% blue chip rates, because I think they do need that to win a championship or to win a playoff game against the top teams in college football, because you do need that. But to compete for an ACC title, you need to get more out of the players you have. And Florida State over the last year did not get that. Right. And they didn't build the right foundation. They didn't have the right culture for that. And so that's where I think this new coaching staff, I'm hoping these guys will change the culture and say, and I think Mike Norvell said that, and I'll pull up the quote, is that if guys don't want to be here, they won't be here anymore.
He said that.
So,
he said that.
I'll pull that. I'll play that quote, because I think finally he said what I think we've all been thinking, but I feel like he should have been saying this since year one.
Exactly.
So. In any action, or I don't believe it, then they're not going to be here. That's that. If I know they have it in them, and I've seen the flashes of it, and now it's time to take that step, and it's time to prove it with the words. You'll know through spring. So thank God there's another opportunity at the end of it for those that change their mind or maybe can't live up to that. They'll have a path to do something else. But I believe in the players that I have. I really do. And, we've got a lot of great, great young men that, they're pissed off with what we've done. And we all have ownership in it. And, it's time to go get it right. And we can sit here and talk about it. We can sit there and, try to, say all the right things. But I mean, it's going to come down to the actions. And, for the class that we put together, for the work that we put into recruiting, for the work we're putting in our evaluation, the work that those players are putting into to the off-season program that is ahead. I mean, it won't be hard to spot, because if it doesn't show up, then they'll choose to go do something else.
So I think finally we're hearing some of that. If you can't make it here, you got to go somewhere else.
A 2-10 season will change the way you say things.
Seriously.
Now, Mike Norvell still has a lot of word salad where he just shut up, Mike. He says a lot of stuff. That is the most candid I've seen that Coach Norvell since he's been here. Yeah. But a 2-10 season will do that to you. Yeah. And I hope he does more of that. And players will buy into that. We are going to structure this in a way that is not going to be simple, because it's not simple in the NFL. And you want to go to the NFL, right? That's what I mean. They all want to. There's no guy coming in to play at Florida State doesn't think he can play in the NFL. Yeah. If you're thinking that way, you shouldn't even be here.
Well, it's a good recruiting tool, honestly. Yeah. For high school, it's a good recruiting, and for the portal, it's a good recruiting tool, because it's
an easy message.
If you're not competing at the highest level, you won't be here, and you'll be able to take that guy's spot. There's no nepotism.
We don't have to. We're not. And listen, fellas, when you come into Florida State, your parents can come in now and then and watch practice, but they're not going to be on the sideline over here every practice. This isn't a little league anymore. This is a man's sport. This is a business now, and we're not fooling around with this. We need guys that are hungry, and they're going to compete for your job. They're coming here to compete for your job.
And if they can't compete for your job, they're gone.
The best 11 guys on each side are going to get a majority of the reps here. We're not going to play 6 running backs every game to please everybody in the running back room, because one of you guys may leave. Oh, I may leave. He said that pretty much. Oh. And he said, I'm not going to beg people to stay here. That's the hardcore. You may not remember some of these old-time coaches. Bill Parcells. These guys, Vince Lombardi. These guys, Matt Campbell at Detroit is old school. And young players of the new generation are having to go play for Matt Campbell. And Matt Campbell's message is simple. We're here to win football games. You're either going to help us win, or you're not going to be here. Yeah. Jesus. This is the kind of guys, and a lot of these guys that are 5-star guys, I'll say this because I'll generalize. A lot of guys that have come out superstars out of high school and are 4 or 5-star guys, they came up under tough systems from little league to tough high school coaches. They weren't babied. They were pushed, and they were pushed hard. And that's what this program needs to be. I'd rather have 12 guys from high school that can play and accept this message than 20 guys who can't.
And just giving them the reality that is, if you prepare like this, if you play like this, you'll be an insurance agent in 4 years. Just telling, being real with it. And that doesn't mean, that you can't be, whether it's a father figure, you can't be, Odell has shaped so many lives, but he's also been a good coach to many of them too.
Of course.
You can be hard on them.
Resume, right.
You can be hard on them, but you can also give them guidance.
Odell had a good resume, and he's going to serve a very productive role, in this program.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think an even better role, because he won't just be the line,
exactly.
And you can look at the recruits too that they signed. You don't think he influenced some of those? He kept some of those recruits in line, like Kevin Wynn, and he helps when and Jesse Harris,
absolutely.
And that's why he's a lifer, and that's why he's so respected here. I think it's
let's be honest with these players and coaches, because that's real life, KB. You know that, and I know that. That when you get feedback from your bosses, from your superiors, from your organization, how you're doing, and these players should get that same type of feedback. Yeah. Okay.
But Mike Norvell also has to follow through, because if a player says, I'm competing better than this player is, or I know
Right.
I'm better than this player, and I'm showing in the practice, and I'm still not getting the nod, then he stops believing in the philosophy. So he has to follow through on his words.
It's
Right?
not that hard.
No, I'm not saying it's hard, but
Yeah.
you have to follow through on your words. You can't just speak.
Yeah.
You can't just be about words. You got to be about the action.
This is a business. This is a business. It's not raw college ball anymore. This is a business. And everybody has to understand that. It's a business. It's an entertainment business. The NFL is an entertainment business at the biggest levels. Why the hell are they playing games more and more over in Europe now? To expand the business. Okay. Why has Netflix got the 2 Christmas NFL games? Because they bid to the NFL, paid huge sums of money to get the rights to those 2 games, and Netflix wants more people to come to Netflix to sign up for 30 days, right? And they're going to get a big boost right before the end of the year. It's all business. Let's do that with business. Now, we know these are young players and young kids a lot of times. We're going to treat them as good people, but we're going to give them feedback.
Yeah.
And a guy like Odell can deliver that message. Mike Norvell clearly can do that. All these coaches should be able to deliver that message and tell them why this guy's playing and you're not.
Yeah.
This is why. This is why. And kids and players will come and they will go. Just like coaches will come and they will go. So as fans, we cannot fall in love with players anymore, not at the professional level and not at this college semi-pro level.
Yeah.
You fall in love with the team, with the university. Okay. But that's the reality of it. And people, oh, you're just negative. I'm going to go to another channel. Well, go. I mean, but this is reality. If you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think it's even maybe negative. It's what's best for the program.
It's reality.
If we want Florida State not to win 2 games again, you have to have a culture of accountability. You have to have a culture of keeping people
I'm going to question other beat reporters and media sites that are selling premium channels who foster their message around sales pitches to their viewers. And I think you know what I'm saying, okay? That they'll package a message out there because it excites them and everything's going to be great. And make sure, because all the secret messages are actually in the hot board that you pay premium for, or the ultimate tomahawk club that you pay $200 for. What the hell is that? I mean, what a sucker's game that is. And if you're in the club and I find out that you told other people about this, it's bizarre shit. But it's all sales messages. And I know you agree with that. Okay. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. The bottom line is coaches, the program needs to be, and whether it's softball, baseball, track and field, basketball, they need to be honest with players because the players have to make decisions about their future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah. So that's that. But like I said, I think Mike Norvell and the staff, for what he has available to him, like I said, no offense coach, no receivers coach, they did a great job in being the second best class in the ACC. I don't know what the hell's going on at Clemson. I don't know what the hell they
What do you
doing.
mean? What are you saying? I don't understand.
Have you seen their class?
I didn't look at it.
It's
why.
So they.
Well, what did they finish?
14th in the country, or 14th in the. Oh, I mean that's 2024. So they are 22nd in the country, and they have a 40% blue chip rate.
Okay.
Behind us. And they signed not a lot of kids. They signed 15 kids, and they don't do portal.
Well, maybe he is going to start doing portal.
That would make him look like the ultimate hypocrite.
Yeah, it would. It would. Well,
he said he didn't believe in it. So
Joe Biden looked like the ultimate hypocrite this week or last week. He looked like the ultimate hypocrite.
So they signed a small class. And I'm not saying they didn't sign a talented class. They had a lot of talented kids in here. But
hey, let me ask you this.
Yeah,
let me ask you this. Trevor Jackson, where do you think Trevor Jackson ends up? Nice kid. really did a great job of scout team here with Florida State. Let's give him his due too, because a lot of kids come here and they're used for practice squad and scout squad. But Trevor Jackson, I hope he goes to the right level and finds the right team to play some football and show everybody who he is. I really do.
Yeah,
I hope he does.
Yeah, it's not going to be here, but it'll be hopefully somewhere. Same
Yeah.
with Brock. I mean, you just brought in the quarterback, so you're not going to keep 2 other quarterbacks.
Who do you think leaves, Brock or Luke, or both?
Brock.
Okay, Brock. Okay.
They're going to do everything.
What is he waiting for then?
Maybe he. I don't see any reason why he would stay. That wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me. I think I would if he put. I think is he waiting for Luke to make the first call? You know, he's going to stay or go.
Maybe. Honestly, well, I mean, he's not in a rush either. He could evaluate. Yeah. He may be having conversations too with people. Like he may be having conversations with schools and then
exactly. And that's all legal. They can all do that.
Yeah. So okay. I don't expect Brock to be here. I wouldn't expect Trevor. I think both of them need to find their spots and use their years wisely that they have. And
how about this guy, Pat Payton? Pat Payton and Marvin Jones Jr.
Marvin Jones Jr. should come back, and
I think they both can contribute, but they're not superstars. He ain't going to the NFL. He's nowhere near NFL ready, in my opinion.
Patrick Payne, if he comes back, he should get. I hope he better get a reduction in money because that money needs to be spent elsewhere. I mean, he's just not.
I think he'll experiment in the portal. I really do.
And then you don't match the offer. Then you don't match the offer. They made a mistake last year. They spent too much on him.
Well, they should be honest with him. Say, okay, we'd like you to come back. Here's what we're going to offer you. It's take it or leave it. This is the amount.
And I think you may have spent. I think you may have overspent on him, and spent on. And if you look, you lost players last year like Bless Harris, and he was an all-conference performer for TCU this year. So you overspent on a defensive end, and you lost a all-conference offensive lineman.
No.
So you can't afford to do that this year unless you have twice as much cash and you're willing to spread it around everywhere, which I don't think you do. You got to be smarter around where you're spending your cash, and you can't do it on the guy. You can't make the same mistake twice on the same player.
What do you think the deadline is on the O-line coach? 5 days, 7 days,
2 weeks,
12 days?
I mean,
first of the year. I mean,
whenever the floor closes, I think once.
Okay, the signing day's over.
Yeah.
When's the portal? Because he is probably, the
transfer portal closes. The first window closes. I think it closes.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But I think within the next week or two, I think it's gonna probably around January is when. I hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Solomon Thomas said that. When he asked Mike Norvell who the offensive line coach was, he didn't know. That's what Solomon Thomas said. Okay. And I think that maybe he didn't.
Well, that means the guy hadn't committed. They probably know who they want, 2 or 3 guys they're looking at, and they're in conversation. You can't tell me they're not in conversation. They're in conversation with.
I also don't think that they didn't want to pay the cost that LSU was willing to give Solomon Thomas. I don't think they wanted to pay a high school kid that much money
with no proven potential.
Yeah, I think they'd rather spend that money on the portal guy.
I agree.
I think that's
in an immediate fix. You're exactly right. Unless you feel Solomon Thomas has played such great competition and has such great ability that he can almost start or be a ready backup.
Because one of the 2 things are going to happen. One, he'll go and he'll start first year at LSU next year, and he'll stay there.
Right.
2, or he'll ride the bench, work in their strength and conditioning program, and then hit the portal and be ready to come back. And then you'll recruit him, and then you'll pay him. Right. So, that's where it works out. Like it's okay. Maybe you did miss out, and maybe he starts next year for them and he plays well. Okay, then you miss.
I don't even. Yeah.
He develops in strength and conditioning. You get him back again.
He's gone.
It's not a big deal.
What is that? Mr. Wonderful says on Shark Tank. He's dead to me.
Yeah. That's stupid. So I think it's.
We're not worried about people who aren't here. Our focus is on people who are here, and that's the key. And at some point, we'll do a show about, who's on the roster, who shouldn't be on the roster.
All right, January 2nd is the deadline for portal. So So I believe that is the deadline. So we'll see. I hope that they can have a coach in the next 2 weeks. Because I think a lot of names are going to be in there. It's a little bit different though with
Yeah.
you may, because some of the players who are on these teams going to the playoffs, because now
Yeah.
it's 12 teams, is a little bit weird. So I don't know.
I think
how that
I
affects
think
it.
the bottom line is we'll know more maybe even after Saturday, tomorrow's games. Okay. When is the playoff committee announcement on Sunday?
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah.
After the championship. After the conference championships.
If a team, if we're focusing on an offensive line coach who's on in the championship game Saturday and they lose and they're not going to make playoffs, then you'll get the announcement pretty quickly.
I think even if they win, at least if they know where they're going, after the conference titles are out of the way, that's when things will be open again. And because you see it a lot of times.
I think there's a guy already locked up.
Yeah,
I really do. Verbally.
I don't think they want a distraction with a conference title.
No, you don't want that. You don't want that. And if I'm that coach, I say, okay, we're locked up verbally, and I'm good with the numbers here, but don't announce it. We'll get it together. Don't worry, because I'm bringing a couple of these guys with me.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So don't worry about it. Let me run this string through. I'll be done by January the 20th or something, 15th or something like that.
As long as it gets,
or as soon as we get knocked out, if we get knocked out, then you can announce it. And then a couple of my guys are going to run into the portal probably, and I'm going to bring both of those guys. So you're going to have two there. So, and I know other guys I've played against in this, whatever that I want to go after. That's how it's done.
But I just don't know if you're going to be able to get guys to portal with a coach from a high playoff team. I don't know.
I'm not worried about it. I think
I am, because maybe it would be better to go after a coach who's at a non-playoff team.
I think you go after the guy that Mike and Gus want, wherever the guy is. If he's at Oregon, then you wait. If he's at Alabama, then you wait. If he's at Georgia, then you wait. 2-3 weeks is not going to make a difference in how this team performs next year. We're going to win. If we're not winning 6 or 7 games, at least you got to build this for at least 2 or 3 years. And I think you get the right guy, get the right fix. Get the right fix. I want the right fix. And Mike said that. He said that. He might have been referring to this because this is lengthening out now. OL, wide receiver, quarterbacks coach, He hasn't even announced. He should announce on the defensive side who is staying. We don't – guys like Shannon now, I understand he's on his way out. And no big surprise there. But why is it's kind of like secretive shit going on here? And I get the feelings, but why is it so touchy-feeling in football, which has always been a physical and violent sport, where in commercial world, you get a pink slip or an email saying you're gone, right? But we got it soft toe around, I mean, I'm not cold-blooded, but I'm saying, why does the university say the following contracts have not been renewed? Blah, blah, blah.
Because it's not about renewal, because most of these guys are still in contract. They have to fire them. So.
Okay, well, then fire. Just say he was dismissed or whatever. Nothing's transparent anymore. We pussyfoot around. I mean, the Shannon thing, it's like political news out of Washington. Everything comes out Sunday night at 5 p.m. because no one's listening, It's weird. I mean, at this point, we don't even know. I guess the official Seminoles.com, right, is the official media site. And whoever's on the roster or on the coaching staff is there. Their name shouldn't be on there anymore if you're not there, right? Alex Atkins' name shouldn't be on there anymore, right? I mean, that's their job to keep that thing up to date. Yeah. So it's just weird, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, the only rumor I've heard around O-line coach is that they're going to go after the fired coach at Rice, which once again, if he's the guy, I don't know why you haven't already signed him, unless they're doing due diligence, but he was the head coach at Rice. He got fired in October.
What is he going to take? What position?
O-line. That's the only guy I've heard that has been brought up multiple times. So he would be a low-cost addition. And but that's the only guy that's been brought up to me. He's from he's he's a Tallahassee native.
Oh God, let's not get into. He grew up in Tallahassee, and he's a legacy guy. And I mean, does he have the qualifications? A strong base of qualifications to recruit and develop and play winning football at the offensive line.
I don't think it's a good choice.
And we're not here to rip people. We're just saying we can't go back to what we had.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm hoping
that's all. That's all.
I'm hoping once again it is a guy that's playing on one of these teams. Hell, it could be an NFL. I honestly don't know. But these decisions and what they do in the portal are going to raise my optimism. Who the O-line additions are, who the quarterback additions are, and I still do believe that they need to add 1 or 2 veteran receivers. I like who they brought in high school, but they need to bring in a 700-yard, 800-yard receiver because they made that mistake last year. They can't make it again. They say that they're
productivity.
They say they're targeting this kid from Kentucky who has 300 yards. I'm like, no, don't make the same mistake. Get a guy that's done it before. I don't care if he's from a slightly smaller, but a guy that's caught the ball 40 times in the season and put up 900 yards, a guy that's had the ball in his hands and it can make contested catches, not a guy that has 300 yards. Like, I don't understand this mindset. Get a veteran in the room. You have a bunch of young
the
guys.
thing we miss a lot, and it gets not a lot of notoriety because it's very hard to track, is the route running. The route running and getting separation, because they have to be able to run this route within 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 if you're lucky, and get separation from very good defensive backs. All right. And the guys they're looking at, they have to be able to do that because the defensive backs you're playing now are better than like these high school guys we just brought in. If they're not great, if they can't develop into good route runners, now they're going against more elite defensive backs than the high school guys. I saw one highlight tape on some guy who was running the football. I think it was a running back. I don't know. And he pushes this defensive back aside like he's a piece of straw. The kid was so little and the running back was so big. It's like, oh, man, that's a highlight tape. Really? He's not going to be playing against that little kid. He's going to be playing against 4-year, 5-year starter college guys, Division I. And if you can't get separation from these guys, you can't catch football. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But this thing about the O-line and no one, you know what? The press conference, Mike Norvell said right at the beginning, he said, I don't want to entertain any questions about coaching coming or going. And that shut that down. So that was the end of that. One other thing about this, a lot of people say, oh, Mike Norvell gives the press guys more access than 90% of the programs in the country. Really? I'm just saying, well, if you get that access, please ask some good questions.
Well, that's why they get the access, because they don't.
Well, somebody was shooting back at me on a Twitter comment, and it's like, well, you can't ask a follow-up. Well, then you know what? You've got 3 guys from the same organization sitting in there. The next guy should pick up the follow-up and say, Mike, back on that question that was asked by Jake over here, I would like, but they won't do it. They won't do it. Okay, very good. Well, it's exciting times in Tallahassee. KB, what else you got?
I guess the last thing I would add, too, is I guess Herb Hand is another contender to think about for the O-line position. Okay. He was Malzahn's offensive line coach at UCF. He had a couple of good years there. We already talked about their run game and the running back that they had this past season there. But it would make sense for an offensive coordinator to bring in his own offensive line coach who he worked with.
Right.
But once again, and UCF is going to bring in a new coach who's going to want to bring in his own staff. So this guy's going to be out of a job soon. So, well, once again, my question would be, why the delay? Are they still evaluating him against other guys? And now are they pushing against Malzahn to hire him? So that's where it's weird. Is it they're evaluating him and seeing if there's better options out there? Because it would make sense for Malzahn to bring in the guy he's used to run his, for the line in his offense.
Unless Mike Norvell says, nah, that's not that. I want X on his resume, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
isn't that how recruiting goes in the commercial world too? I want the following things on the guy's resume.
Well,
or I
mean,
want
this guy
equivalent
had guys
experience.
drafted. I mean, this guy's had guys drafted as
Okay.
early last year. He had a guy drafted.
Did he play at a high Division I level
Okay, that
himself?
doesn't matter.
Did he play in the NFL?
I don't.
Has he had the NFL experience coaching or playing? That's what I want on the resume. That's what I want on my guys' resumes.
Herb Hand, I don't believe he played in college. He didn't play in the NFL. He's coached at West Virginia, Tulsa, Vanderbilt.
I just think
Penn
it's a
State,
nice
Auburn,
recruiting
Texas.
thing.
He's coached for a while, a lot of it at P4 level, but
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the last thing I have is it's going to be very interesting as we start to swing into the toilet bowl seasons, the fake bowls, right? If you're not in the playoffs, it's purely entertainment. Some of it's not going to be very good. And how many guys start opting out of these games? And I know what Deion Sanders said, that none of his players will opt out, but there's no way, unless he's in the playoffs, I can't believe he would allow his top guys, including his sons, to play in a meaningless bowl game or Hunter. That would be crazy unless they've given them $100 million insurance policy for career-ending injuries or any injury.
it would be so
You know,
dumb. It would be so dumb.
I mean, but you're going to see horrendous amounts of players exiting. Don't you agree or not?
Yeah, it makes no logical sense to do that.
And some, you may see a few in these playoffs opt out. You could see that.
You
You could see it.
I mean, that would be. You could, but that would be disappointing.
I wouldn't be
You could.
surprised. I wouldn't be
could.
surprised. That's all I got, buddy.
Yeah, the only other thing is that Florida State has had guys in their portal, but no one, I don't think. Well, someone did tonight that I think is a guy I didn't know about that I'll bring
West.
up. Byron Turner's entered the
Byron Turner, okay.
So defensive end.
He wasn't a significant contributor.
No, he only had 1 year left.
Defensive end.
No, he was a rotational piece.
Yeah.
Never really.
Special teams guy.
Yeah. So he's entered the portal. Once again, you just brought in a lot of pieces, younger guys who are going to now.
Well,
be
good
ready
for
to
him. I
compete.
hope he finds a job. I do. I hope he finds a job.
So yeah, he was a guy that you thought you could develop. He's been here for a while, just never got there. So you brought in guys to compete there.
There'll
Other
be
guys that
Deuce Span went out. Jackson West.
You're going to see more.
You'll have more guys.
You're going to have more guys.
Well, if they're having the right discussions with players, then you'll be more people.
It's going to have to be. I mean,
Yep.
I hope you're going to need a lot more people to go.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it's only 4 guys right now. Joshua Farmer is NFL, so that's something that people weren't sure about. I don't know if he gets drafted high. I'm not really.
No way. If he does, I'll be shocked. He
not-
won't be in the first 3 rounds. I'll tell you that. He may have to go as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, this maybe is once again, he's not held to this, so he could say he may just be getting an evaluation.
That's correct. He gets an evaluation about his rounds. And if he thinks he's too low, he'll come back.
But once again, Florida State shouldn't be held to that. If they find another defensive tackle, they feel like
They'll bring him back. I mean,
no. I'd say go to the port. If you find a replacement for him, I'm not against that. I wouldn't be against taking him back either. But if I find a guy that can, feel
absolutely.
I'm not going to be beholden to him.
When a guy says, I'm not re-signing up for 2025, you
yeah.
go to fill that slot. I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to predict where he's going to end up. If I have a spot left for him, then fine. You come back. If I don't, you're out.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
And Tom Like Nation has a really good list of people who have been brought up for transfers.
Yes.
You guys can look at this. And this is something we'll
Yes.
probably review on our next show. We talked about them. We talked about some of these. Derek Simmons from West Carolina. He's actually visiting, like we talked about on the 14th.
Right.
So
Guys got to come in for visits. That's right.
Yeah. So he's already scheduled to come in. 2 quarterbacks we talked about: Castellanos, Caden Slater on the list. CJ Campbell we talked about, who's gotten an offer. or gotten a visit. They may bring him back in, but I'm not totally sold on that now.
I wouldn't either.
But there's at least, it looks like 6 O-linemen that are listed here, which is good. A couple from UCF, which you would think, okay, Malzahn should have a pretty good beat on them. Which
you're going to see a number of Nebraska players on this team next year.
I think defensively, definitely.
Yeah.
And you see them here. You see Jamari Butler is a target for them. This guy, Prince William, the edge guy, is a big target. He's a good player, and James Williams is a very good player. So that's where I think if you can get these guys from Nebraska, you're going to be in a really, and this linebacker as well, like you said, to fit the defense, that would be an instant upgrade and a guy that fits guys that fit the system, where you can go and focus your time on, get a couple guys from UCF on the line, and then patch mill it. So we'll talk about these guys next week, who gets added to this list, because this is a really good list. And hopefully we'll have visits scheduled, maybe some guys commit. Hopefully the guys that you have relationships with, Tony White and those guys have relationships with at Nebraska, hopefully that doesn't take a long time. Those can get wrapped up.
No.
And they
They want to come.
sorted.
Listen, anybody, it's human nature. If you have a great relationship with your coach, you want to kind of follow that, because you know the system, you know what he wants. He knows you. That you have faith in each other. And if Tony White, Gus Malzahn, and Terrence Knighton, pot roast, if they bring players in here that they know who can't play, that's on them. Okay? That's on them, because why would you do that?
All those guys, from what I've evaluated, are impact players.
If they bring players in here from Nebraska or UCF, they're not prospect. They're going to be significant contributors.
Especially Nigel.
And when I say significant contributors, it doesn't mean they're all Americans. It means they're bringing them here to play, because their resumes are on the line.
Absolutely. And Nigel Kelly's an interesting one from UCF, because obviously he's on the defensive side of the ball. But Gus Malzahn was the coach, and this is a guy that Florida State, I believe, lost 3 years ago in the recruiting cycle for him. He went to Miami. Then he transferred to UCF, and he had a really good season this past season at UCF. He had like 7 or 8 sacks. So this could be interesting too, to have a guy that comes full circle around. So a lot of good evaluations so far here. You have to figure out.
Well, that's what it's about, KB. That's what we've said. It's about the total evaluation process and making sure these guys fit your system and can contribute. Don't have anybody on this football team anymore that, I don't care if they're legacy or you're doing your best buddy a favor. Don't get into that. That's not how you're going to build a winning championship football team.
Yeah. And really, the middle of this is where I'm really the O-line guys, because like I said, this target list needs to double or maybe triple. Unless you hit on every one of them. So that'll be interesting. We'll have a show on that. We'll talk about it next week, unless something major happens. They sign about just like 10 guys over the weekend. But we'll talk about that next week. But like I said, if there's anyone else you guys think we should evaluate, leave a note in the comments of this video. We'll pull them up next show and go through them. But I think that's it for now. Is there anything else that you want to
Yes, I've got 2 things. I'm mailing off 2 checks. KB, as we said, check going out to the Boys and Girls Club of the Big Bend, P.O. Box 7141, Tallahassee, Florida. That's from our fundraising that we do annually around this time of the year. And we're sending out a check to them. And then, of course, the beloved Leon County Humane Society. We're sending out a nice check there to our friends and animals and the Leon County Humane Society. Okay. And we'll send a nice check to them. So we thank everybody for that. And we'll send that out to them right away. Checks in the mail. Checks are in the mail.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for everyone who contributed to that. We appreciate it. Obviously, those foundations will appreciate it as well. And that'll be it for now. So once again, great job by Mike Norvell and staff for salvaging this class. We look forward to seeing these kids on campus. And from what I've heard, there's at least 10 plus early enrollees from that class of 20. So about
that's the name of the game.
Should be early enrollees in January. So that's good to hear. But obviously, our next show, we'll be talking about portal transfers, who's about being evaluated, who's visiting. That'll be our next show.
And who needs to leave the team, maybe.
Well, and who's jumped in the portal. So yeah, we'll talk about that. Thank you all. Have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Let us know what you think of the class, what you think of the portal additions, targets, and we'll go over next show. Have a great one, y'all. Stay safe. Go Knowles, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.